Hi, hello, I'm Sam Harrison. I read, review and discuss fantasy and science fiction books. Today I have a review for you of Return of the Griffin by JCM Berne. So, this is the second in the Hybrid Helix series. So it says turn 2 of the Hybrid Helix. I think turns of the Helix is a really cool way of describing the series. I read the first book, which was Wistful Ascending, in September last year for Self-Pub September, and I had been holding off, and then I got this for Christmas, so it seemed like the perfect time to read this in January. What I'm going to go through with this one is we're going to talk a little bit about characters, a little bit about story and kind of where we see everything going, and then kind of my overall impressions. But I want to tell you up front that I loved this book. Beginning to end, had a fantastic time reading it. I did give it 5 stars. No, maybe 4 stars. I'm not sure how many stars I gave it. I gave it some stars. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to record my review straight after finishing reading, or very close to finishing reading, because we had just such a busy weekend, and I have kind of stopped liking recording in the evenings if I can get away with it, because I think the daylight from the window is a lot nicer on the video. You don't need to know all of this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you as I said, a review of this book. We might have some small spoilers for Wistful Ascending, although there isn't that much that actually carries over in terms of ongoing plot element stuff, because this story takes place on Earth, so a lot of the space storyline stuff from the first one is kind of put on the back burner for this one. However, you do get a lot of kind of story revelations and stuff in this book that do recontextualize that first one. So if you have not read Wistful Ascending, I would really recommend that you go read that book, watch the review. The book's available on Kindle Unlimited. You don't have to buy the physical version, although it's cool to support the author, so buy that physical version. Now, this review is going to be completely non-spoiler for Return of the Griffin. However, I am going to probably give you some kind of setup spoilers. So if you're the kind of person who doesn't like reading the back of the book, for example, the stuff that I tell you is going to be back of the book stuff. Anyway, so setup for this book is that our hero Rohan, who is a Canadian, and he's Canadian, and he's of Indian heritage, and he basically his mother was a Canadian of Indian heritage, and his father was a space alien from the Ildrak Empire. And what happens with Ildrak is they basically go out into the galaxy, they find women that they think will produce powerful offspring, and they mate with them. And they have that powerful offspring, and they use that offspring to, jostle for, political station, things like that. So it's a really, really interesting concept. It reminds me a little bit of the setup that is eventually revealed for Invincible. What else was I reading? Reminds me a little bit of kind of, you get the feeling that the Ildrak society is kind of a bit maybe like the Palatine Society from Sun Eater. Hello, Barry. So you can't sit on my lap, buddy, because the microphone's here. Oh, he's not going to like this. So the nice little cat diversion there. So I really, really enjoyed this one. The setup for this one is basically that Rohan grew up on Earth, and when he was on Earth, he was a superhero. So he was like a teen hero, and he fought with supervillains and all this sort of jazz. And then eventually, when he was around 20, he decided that he was basically traded away to the Ildrak by Hyperion, who was like the Superman of Rohan's Earth. And so basically Hyperion and the hybrids from Earth all joined the Ildrak army, or navy actually, they use the term navy. They all joined the Ildrak navy, and they did that in order to basically safeguard Earth from Ildrak occupation. So Earth is like limited in a lot of the things that they're allowed to do with technology and stuff like that, which again was a really cool idea, I thought. So instead of like being forcibly part of this empire, Earth gets to stand apart because of the sacrifices of the heroes, which was really interesting. And it kind of follows the theme as well of, so we learn in book 1 that Rohan killed like an entire rebellion of hybrids of his own people in order to get free from the Empire. So in order to be allowed to essentially retire and go and live on Wistful, the space station from book 1, he had to basically kill a lot of people. And a lot of very, very powerful people, even though he is not one of the most powerful hybrids. But we come to learn through the book that it's not that he's powerful. He is a very powerful character. But for him, he's creative and intelligent in ways that most hybrids aren't. Because his father, instead of picking, you know, someone who would give him the most ideal physical specimen, he picked somebody who was smart. And we actually meet Rohan's mother in this book, and you see, you know, she's in a position of authority, and that position definitely seems very well earned. I do hope that we see more of her as the books go on. So the story is essentially that Rohan leaves Earth with the Ildrak Navy and to join the Ildrak Navy, and leaves behind everyone on Earth. And due to the shenanigans he gets up to in space, which is you know, some light genocide, he decides that I don't know. I think there's a lot of trauma that he's kind of processing running through, and he doesn't feel like he's worthy of his family and friends back in his old life on Earth, which is why he stayed on Wistful and hasn't even contacted them. So yeah, some really interesting story stuff in this one that I really, really enjoyed. And in this book, basically 2 heroes from Earth turn up at Wistful, and they're like, we need you to come back to Earth. Well, they come looking for Hyperion, and they find Rohan, and Rohan's like, yeah, I'm sorry, Hyperion is dead, so are all of the other hybrids from Earth. It's literally just me, and I'm the one you don't want, but I'm going to come back because without me, the Earth is doomed. So it's really interesting because the Earth is also being attacked by kaiju. It's being attacked by shark kaiju, and like millions and millions of people have already died in destroying these first 2 kaiju that have come through, and they're coming through quicker and quicker. And the heroes from Earth are like, look, you know, we're predicting the next one's coming through very, very soon, and we need your help. So Rohan goes to Earth with them to try and take out this land kaiju, and a land shark kaiju. And going back to Earth, he kind of rejoins his old life with his old friends, and kind of rejoins the Avengers, as it were, of his Earth. And I talked to JCM Berne on Twitter about this. I wouldn't normally at an author just to ask them a minor question, but there's a character in this book called the Green, and I really love this character. This character needs to be big in this series, and this character, basically the Hulk, or I say basically the Hulk, has some similarities with the Hulk in terms of they are kind of a rampaging, raging monster, and that they are green. and I really like this character, and I was like, Joe, is this the Hulk? Is this an homage to the Hulk? Especially because the character's name is David, and David was the name that they gave the Hulk. They gave Bruce Banner. So instead of being Bruce Banner, they called him David Banner in the Hulk TV show. And this was specifically because they said that Bruce sounded. This is a direct quote from Stan Lee, who named Bruce Banner after his father, whose name was Bruce. The TV executive said that Bruce's name was too gay, so that's why he got named David Banner. And I thought that was quite funny because in Return of the Griffin, the Hulk character is called David. But anyway, that's a huge diversion from my comic book nerd roots. So Rohan is basically back in this kind of back in his old society, but he's grown a lot. So in his time with the Navy, he's not only become, stronger and more powerful, but he also has a lot more control over his emotions. And something that we find out a bit more of, and was in Whisperless Ending as well, but the more power he draws, the angrier he becomes. So the rage and the power are intrinsically linked. So there are times when he's getting more and more and more powerful. He's becoming angrier and angrier, and he's like, everyone, I should be ruling this planet, sort of thing. I'm the most powerful being on this planet. Really interesting. I really loved it. Throughout the book, Rohan is getting just absolutely battered and beat up. And a lot of it is like, by refusing to give in to that anger, he's not taking as much power on, so he's getting absolutely rinsed by people who could not take him at all if he actually let loose. So lots of really interesting stuff with Rohan. I think that there's some really good stuff where he's processing his past trauma here. And we also find out that there's kind of, just before he left, he did something that he's really not proud of, but thought was quite minor. And then it's revealed later on that actually it was a really, really horrible thing for him to do, when he was kind of overtaken by his rage. One of the things I really like about Rohan, and I said before, he committed a little light genocide. JCM Berne isn't afraid to give this character some really strong flaws and a pretty horrible backstory. And I really liked seeing that from the Earth perspective as well. There are a lot of other characters in this book. On the Avengers team, we have Kid Lightning, who is kind of a Thor analog. We have Damsel, which kind of feels almost like a Scarlet Witch sort of analog. She's able to manipulate emotions. And then we have Amber, who's kind of like a Flash, but she's got knives. We have Bright Angel, who is Rohan's ex-girlfriend, and she is the host to this kind of mysterious magical force called the Angelium. Really want to know more about that. She can grow 4 glowing angel wings from her back at a second's notice, and these wings are razor blade sharp. So really cool power set. I was imagining the way she was looking in a lot of these scenes, and because the book's very cinematic, I was like, oh, this is really cool. I feel like we don't get enough of a lot of these characters to really, really fall in love with them and get attached to them. If you've seen, in fact, read is probably better. If you have read the issue of Invincible where Robert Kirkman introduces you to the Guardians of the Globe, one of the things that I liked best about that was that Kirkman essentially stays so close to the DC archetypes of these heroes that it's very, very easy to see which one is which, and that gives you that connection. It opens up the connection straight away, so you care about these characters because they are essentially very, very, very minor differences between them and other characters. So what JCM Berne does in Return of the Griffin is he actually does really create his own versions of these Marvel heroes. Like, for example, Bright Angel, no representation in things like Avengers. Kid Lightning, again, as I said, he's Thor-ish, but mostly in that he has a hammer and can do lightning stuff. Damsel more gives off Scarlet Witch vibes than is actually like Scarlet Witch, if that makes sense. So because those characters are not as close, it actually, I think, got in the way a little bit for me building that instant connection with them. And because Rohan keeps a lot of them at arm's reach, or out of arm's reach, that's not the right term. As Rohan keeps himself to himself a little bit, does not want to connect with these people because he doesn't want to, have to leave and leave his connections behind again. I don't feel like we get much of a sense of the characters outside of Bright Angel and Rohan's mother. Rohan's mother is excellent. Bright Angel is excellent. I would really like to see more of a couple of the more minor characters, like Amber. I would like to see more of. I don't really know what's going on with Spiral. I feel like I missed some description stuff about him early on, or like skim Reddit or whatever, read it while I was tired. And as the book went on, I was like, who is this guy again? What's going on with this guy? But c'est la vie. Sometimes you miss stuff. List was really interesting. So List is a dinosaur person, and she's thousands and thousands of years old, and she does magic, actual magic. So this book introduces magic into this universe, which is really interesting because obviously book 1 is very much this is a sci-fi book. So book 2 having loads of magic stuff in it, and quite a bit of magic stuff in it. There's portals, there's the fact that all of the seas on all of the planets and all of the universe are linked, and List can travel in a boat basically between any body of water to another was really cool. I thought that was really interesting. So there's lots of really good stuff going on. We get to spend a bit more time with the kaiju on Toth 3, I believe. It's Toth 3 or Toth 4? Toth 3, I think. We get to spend a bit more time with those kaiju and see how, they can almost kind of help Rohan defeat the kaiju on Earth. So there's lots of really interesting stuff going on in this one. Honestly, I would struggle for a critique for this book, and I think that the only critique I have is that I wish that we had those stronger connections with the with the other Vanguard characters. I thought that otherwise it was quite good, and I feel like all of these characters are in a fantastic place to be developed as we go on with the series. JCM Berne's told me I've asked him in comments, how many books this is going on for, and he says no planned ending currently, which is great. Here's the big comparison for me, right? So if you are a fan of, say, Marvel movies and comics and stuff like that, Invincible, and you like sci-fi stuff, but you really love the Dresden Files, that is the thing that when I was reading this, The Return of the Griffin reminded me so much of the Dresden Files. And as you guys know, the Dresden Files is one of my favourite series of all time, which is why I absolutely loved reading this, and I cannot wait to get to Blood Reunion. I probably will buy the physical for that one as well, just because I want to support this series and support Joe in writing it, but also kind of want to have them all on my shelf. I haven't got Wistful Ascending yet, but I'll probably just put it on my birthday listings. I've already read it. I don't really collect books, but I'm starting to keep a few self-published books, because you never know when these books are just going to disappear off of Amazon, so I do want to keep them. Anyway, that was kind of a rambling, but I feel like you guys should have a pretty good idea, if you've read Wistful Ascending, whether this one is worth your time. And I would say this is a much, much better book. The storyline is really cohesive. My big complaint for Wistful Ascending was that it felt like a lot of small things that didn't really add up to a big overarching story. The story was very much more of a character focus than a story focus, if that makes sense. Whereas in this, we get the best of both worlds. The story is fantastic. The close effect on the close focus on the characters is really strong, and it furthers our relationship with Rohan, who I really, really like. And just like understanding the power system, the world, and how it differs from our world. Really, really interesting. I'm really looking forward to Blood Reunion, which is the next book. I'm excited to see what happens in that one, because, reunion, what's going to happen? Maybe the dad will come back into the picture, since we've seen his mum in book 2. Anyway, I think that's more than enough to tell you that you should go read this book. If you have liked this video, please do give it a like. If you have also read Return of the Griffin and you'd like to chat with me about it, or you'd like to ask some questions, please do drop those in the comments. And if you, I would love it if you subscribe to the channel. Every little subscription helps, and it's just fantastic to see how much this little community is growing. So thanks so much for watching this bad boy, and I will see you tomorrow.